Dedrick, my business partner, said leadership is the algorithm
Mm.
because the algorithm's really showing us how it thinks we're supposed to think, or
Mm-hmm.
whoever's controlling and pulling the strings of the algorithm is feeding us specific messages. And depending on what echo chamber that you're in, you're being fed a specific thing that's causes a lot of confirmation bias. What do you think the power of the algorithm is right now on how we're acting in society?
Profound. There's a concept comes up a lot in the conversations around technology, especially technocracy. Rule by expert, and more recently, rule by experts who deploy technologies to control society below them for their own good, right? For our own good. And also transhumanism, the concept of algocracy, rule by algorithm. The idea that the algorithm, in fact, is superior to human decision making. It's oftentimes described in terms of partnership or symbiosis, that the superior human is the symbiote with the algorithm or with the AI. But ultimately, myself, I see it as very much an unwanted intrusion upon a process a very human process that's still ongoing, in which the human species and human individuals are trying to improve themselves, right? Trying to improve their decision making, trying to improve society, trying to refine their worldviews. The introduction of the algorithm, and you can see it already, how rapidly the proportion of human decision making to algorithmic decision making, or human computation, human information processing, compared to the algorithmic processing, the algorithm is eating up more and more and more of that proportion. A lot of cognitive scientists or neuroscientists who really don't believe in free will, they think that free will is basically the output of a biochemical process that's completely out of our hands, kind of an illusion. You hear people like Daniel Kahneman talking like this, Daniel Dennett, Yuval Noah Harari takes his ideas from them. And one of the proposals is that the algorithm, because it's much faster than human decision making, it's more accurate than human decision making, and since human beings aren't really even making the decisions anyway, to merge with the algorithm, to become symbiotic with the algorithm, so that the algorithm is actually the primary driver of decision making. That's their desire. I see it more in terms of the creation of a kind of digital control grid, in which the people who are deploying the algorithms, and to some extent even the more complex neural networks, the AI itself, is in control, and the human being is just along for the ride. The famous transhumanist Anders Sandberg described it when just discussing the negative views of technology, but it really struck me at the time. I've used it many times since. Described some of the fears around technology going back to the Victorian era, that human beings would atrophy as we coupled with the technologies. We become more parasitic than symbiotic. And it was described then in the Victorian era as human beings becoming like barnacles on a ship hull. And I think that, again, it's not going to be the same across the board. Some symbiosis will be more like, say, moss or lichen. That there will be much more of a partnership. And I think some communities will resist it to the point that it's just they're left relatively unscathed. Although I expect they will be a smaller number and probably disempowered. But yeah, the algorithm, the algocracy, an algorithmic society, we already live in it. And yeah, I find it to be aesthetically unappealing, and then coming from out of that, I justify it with philosophy that is philosophically unsound, or again, just undesirable.